Welcome to a well-designed home podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Brunk, Principal Interior Designer at Timeless Designs by Melissa. We are a premier, full-service interior design studio serving Sioux Falls, South Dakota, the Iowa Great Lakes, Mankato, and Rochester, Minnesota. Our mission is to create enduring, bespoke homes that celebrate a life well lived. With over 20 years of industry experience, we craft personal havens where every detail reflects the essence of your family, evoking feelings of joy, belonging, and pure delight. Join us as we transform the building and remodeling industry, one home at a time, because there's no place like your home. Welcome to today's podcast, A Well-Designed Home. I am your host, Melissa, from Timeless Designs. I'm the red shoe wearing interior designer because there's no place like your home. Today we have Ryan from Austad's, and we're going to talk about golf and golf simulators and all things golf, I suppose, right?
It's early in the year. The Masters is upon us. We're almost to April. So what better things to talk about than golf?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Okay, so what is your story? Who are you and what's your story?
That's a good question. So my name is Ryan Austad, and I am the president of Austad's Golf. We are a 62-year-old golf retailer based in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We have 10 stores all over the upper Midwest, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska. And so we specialize in custom fitting golf equipment and really anything in the golf sphere. And we've done that now for 62 years. We started as a golf cataloger. My grandfather started our business. We were the world's first golf catalog. So if you travel
That's
all
so
the way
unique.
back to 1963, President Kennedy was still in office. And my grandfather was selling golf clubs out of the trunk of his car as he was an insurance adjuster. And he wasn't doing so well in the insurance game and thought, hey, there's got to be a better way to sell golf clubs. At the time, if you wanted golf clubs, you had to get them at a country club. And it was sort of this rich man's sport. And he thought there's a better way to do this. So he and my grandmother went and found the phone books of the top 50 largest populated cities in the country. They pulled every doctor and every lawyer out of that phone book, and they created a golf catalog, and they sent it out, wondering if they would
That's
ever get a call.
awesome.
And lo and behold, the first catalog was created. So we grew and grew, and by the early 90s, we were the world's largest distributor of golf product in the world. In fact, if you drive a couple miles down to the east here on Sycamore and 10th Street, we had 120,000 square foot warehouse, and everything was being shipped centrally here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Wow.
We sold that portion of the business in the 90s, which in retrospect was perfect timing because this little thing called the internet was starting and people stopped buying via catalog.
Yeah.
And at that point, we had a couple stores, and my father really grew our store footprint. And that has continued through today. And now I have the privilege, being third generation, to run the company. And we still have our golf retail stores, which we do phenomenally well. We have Austad's Golf. And then more recently, kind of coming out of COVID, we created this golf simulator and installation business, which I know we'll talk a little more about. But
Yeah.
we've had an interesting 62-year run, and I'm excited for the next 62 years.
Cool. That's so interesting. So the first catalog and just the way they went about creating this catalog is so amazing.
Yeah, I've always said, my grandfather was an incredibly hard worker, very smart. I've always thought, to be really successful, you have to have a great idea and you have to get kind of lucky. And he certainly got lucky. The other thing that was happening in the 60s, for those of you who are golfers, color TV came into play in the 60s, and you had this budding rivalry with Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer. So the game of golf just explodes with popularity. The color TV was huge because you could now follow the ball, right? The cameras could follow the ball in the air. Before, if you go YouTube highlights from Ben Hogan or something, in the 40s, 50s, they show the swing, and then they show the guy standing there, and then you'll just see a still shot of a ball on a green. I mean, it is incredibly boring to watch. That all changed in the 60s when our business got going. So great idea, hard worker, lucky in terms of the timing of it. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So are there, other than the golf simulators, are there anything that's really interesting or unique that you are currently working on?
We're always trying to really think outside the box. I'll give you a couple things that I'm
Okay.
really excited about. We're installing a new system in our flagship store here in Sioux Falls called PuttView. So what putt view is from the ceiling, we will have projectors that are projecting onto the green the different breaks. So if you come in and you want to practice right to left to right putts, you're
Mm.
going to see the break projected.
Hmm.
And then once you putt, it's actually going to show you your line. The light is going to travel behind your ball. And then it's going to give you all the data from your stroke, your tempo, your loft, your lie, any number of different things that are going to allow us to help fit you for the right putter. So we're always looking at ways to utilize technology to create better experiences for the
Yeah.
customer that lead them to the right product that'll help them play the best golf. So putt view is one thing I'm really excited about. I also had a call this week with a company in Sweden, and they have a product called Volumental.
Mm.
And Volumental is a 360-degree scan of your feet. And so we upload
Mm.
all of our inventory into this system. We scan, you step onto it with your socks on,
Uh-huh.
and it's going to scan your feet, and it's going to give you more data than you ever wanted to know about both your right and left foot. I did not know this, and I bet your listeners don't either. 70% of people have different sized feet, where they ought to have possibly a different width or a different length in their shoe. And then
And shoes don't come like
shoes
that.
don't, well, we can custom order them like that, but you're
Sure.
right, they don't
Right.
come like that out of the box. So you'll be able to, within a couple weeks here, you'll be able to come in, get a scan of your feet, learn something
That's
about your
awesome.
feet, and then they have an algorithm based on all of our inventory to say, "Here are the recommended best fits for you in the store today."
Wow, that's really
Yeah.
unique.
So, it's kind of taking our custom fitting approach to golf clubs and now using it in some of the other categories to once again help customers not only with the have a great experience, but get them to have the right product that's actually going to be comfortable and help them play their best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. Okay, so golf simulators.
Yeah.
So if I was to build a house, where is the best location for a golf simulator? And how much space do I need?
Yeah. Well, we've done them just about anywhere in a home, so I'll start with that.
Okay.
A lot of people will put them in their basements if
Uh-huh.
they have high enough ceilings. A lot of people will put them in their garage.
Hmm.
I mentioned we predominantly serve the upper Midwest, North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska. So a lot of people live in rural settings where they have kind of an outbuilding
Hmm.
where they keep their toys or their farm equipment or whatever it is. So we've done a lot of them in there. There's almost no space that we could do it, but usually it's in the garage or the basement.
Okay.
In terms of sizing, I'll give you the ideal size space, but with the caveat, we can build custom size cages, and we have done them. We had a guy, and he just said, "Hey, I want to be able to play golf in my basement. I have 8 foot high ceilings. I know I can't swing a driver in 8 foot, but I want to at least work on my iron game." So we built a cage that was 7.5 feet high by
Hmm.
8 feet wide. It would not be my recommended best practice, but he was happy as a clam because he got that sim in his basement,
Uh-huh.
and he was able to go play number 7 at Pebble Beach and have a riot with his buddies. So you can do it in any size, but the ideal, you wanna have, ideally 13 feet of width,
Okay.
and to be safe, you wanna have about 20 feet of depth. Now, the cage is not gonna be 20 feet of depth, but you want enough space that people can comfortably sit behind you and not feel like they're gonna get a
Hmm.
7 iron to the jaw.
Yeah.
Um, and then from a height standpoint, like I said, we've done them as low as 7.5 feet, but you wanna be 9 to 10 feet,
Okay.
generally in your cage so that you can freely swing your driver. Certainly 10 feet if you're really tall with an upright swing.
Okay. So I've seen plans where it's a 9-foot ceiling, but then there's a couple of steps down. So there's some planning if it's going in the basement, if you need that extra height, correct?
Exactly. Yep. And what we'll do, so the value that we can bring at Osted's is we have every different brand available, and we work with distributors all over the world, and so we can get whatever product is right for you at the right price point.
Hmm.
But then we also have all the knowledge on how these are installed. So usually we'll work if you're building a house, we'll work with the builder. We'll show them exactly where the electrical goes, exactly where the HDMI goes. If you do need to step down because we need the proper height,
Hmm.
exactly what is the size of the physical cage itself where you need that step down. And so it's a stressful process to build a house. It's quite honestly, it's exciting but stressful to build a simulator because there are so many different components from,
Mm.
the projector and what aspect ratio do I need to the launch monitor to the cage to your mat to your fairway flooring, to what software, what gaming computer at what specifications. Um, let us help. We don't charge for that consultation. We just want to make sure we get you the right one.
Sure.
So we have a dedicated team of golf simulator experts, and that's all they do is they talk to people and builders about, hey, here's what could work based on your needs, your budget, and the house plan that you've shown me.
Cool.
Yeah.
How much fun.
Yeah. I'll tell you this, I'm not 62, but our business has been around 62 years. Our first simulator in Sioux Falls here, we did in the late 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
It was $100,000 and it was terrible. Like you would hit on it and, like you would think you're slicing it and the ball would go down and to the left, right? Like it was just, the technology was terrible. So you fast forward 45 years, the pricing has come way down, and we've done full simulators for $6,500, not $100,000 anymore. And the tech is so good. So there's a software company called GS Pro, and they call it Open API. So anybody, if you and I could design courses, we could upload them to the system.
Cool.
And people rank them, and if they're good enough, they get on there and they stay on there. And what that means is you have thousands of courses available, all the courses you want. Like you and I could go to my house right now and play Augusta National, the most prestigious private course in the world, and we can play an exact replica in my garage. Like how cool is that? This is the golden age for golf. Not only that, but they have they call them fantasy courses. So like my son watched Star Wars the other week, and he found a course called, I think it was like the Sanctuary, and I'm not a big Star Wars guy, but it was the Sanctuary something, and you're playing on one of the Star Wars planets. So while you're teeing off, you got the Millennium Falcon or whatever zooming by the tee box. Like how much fun is it to play golf today in a simulator?
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's like a video game, but only way, way better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was a Halloween one we played where there's like zombies walking around in the fairway, and it's very ominous and scary. But it's an absolute riot. And somebody asked me the question the other day, because the rounds of virtual golf have gone so high. They're eclipsing now actual rounds of golf, which are also high. And they said, hey, is this a risk to golf? Are you going to have more people just wanting to play virtual golf? And I believe one feeds the other. My kids, which are 12, 8, and 4, are much more interested in playing on a real golf course now because they've had so much fun learning at our house playing Halloween golf.
Yeah.
So I think it's just going to help grow the game.
Well, and especially in the Midwest, we live where it's winter-ish, 6 to 8 months out of the year. And so having the opportunity to continue your golf game in those winter months where you just can't be outside.
Yeah, and you can use it for other things. You can use it as kind of an in-home theater. We've hooked up, it's just an HDMI that goes into your projector. So we've hooked the Nintendo Switch into that, and the kids have played Mario Kart, stuff like that. And then there was other add-ons. We've worked with one home builder who does a lot of apartment complexes, and they wanted hunting to be a part of it. And so we have a hunting add-on. So if the folks in their building want to golf, they can golf. If they want to go shoot zombies or ducks or pheasants, we have that option for them as well.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Very versatile.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Plenty of things to think about, but it's a way from a commercial standpoint to differentiate yourself. Even a lot of employers we've worked with, and they said, hey, we just, every employer is always thinking, how do I find ways to retain people? A lot of them are calling them back into the office, right? No more work from home, or certainly not full time. How do I incent them to come in? So we've put them in a lot of offices so that they can have their Friday afternoon happy hour around the golf simulator or hunting or whatever it might be.
Yeah, that's a really great way to incentivize those employees to come back and like, hey, it is a great place to work.
Yeah. It's like kind of part of their benefits package. And they say, hey, you want to come in on the weekend with your friends and use it? That's what it's here for. It's here for us all to enjoy. Yeah.
Cool. So on average, how many golf simulators do you put in a year?
Last year, we averaged, what did we average? About 2 a week. So we have a southern install team, a northern install team, and then one based here in Sioux Falls. And we'll travel within 100 miles of any of our brick and mortar stores. So our biggest challenge is just the miles between, we'll drive out to Rapid City and do one. So if they were all in one place, we could probably do one a day, but we can't. So we averaged about 2 a week. So we did, I don't know, whatever it's a little over 100 probably last year. We probably install, I don't know, we maybe install about half of what we sell. We have an option. Obviously, we can go through the whole consultation process, and if an individual wants to install themselves, that's totally fine. They still have access to our installers if they
Mm.
hit a
A
trouble
snag in
point.
the
Yep.
setup. Yeah.
And we can either come out at some hourly rate, or they can just call and we'll kind of troubleshoot with them in that moment.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
So residential, new construction versus remodel. Is there a percentage one way to the other, or it's pretty even?
Um, it's probably more people putting into their current homes. I mean, we're fortunate in Sioux Falls, a community that continues to grow and is building quite a
Mhm.
bit, and so we certainly do plenty of those. But I think there's a lot of people. COVID was a terrible thing, but for golf, it turned out to be a wonderful thing for a couple of reasons. They said stay home, or if you're going to be home, go do something outside where you're socially distanced and safe. So
Mhm.
golf was one of those things. And then you were working from home a lot more, and so people started to really look at their home space differently and say,
For sure.
okay, if I'm not just here, I leave at 7 a.m., I come back at 6 p.m. I'm now here all day. I need to find ways to make my house more engaging. And so simulators really started taking off back in 2020. And that's when we really got into the sale and installation of it. So that's probably more of what we do. Is we could do either, but more into current homes. I'll say the other big thing, and we saw this at the Sioux Falls Home Show. A lot of people go, boy, I don't think I have space. And we always say, well, do you have a garage? And if they do, we have this really cool option. It's called a G track, where just like your garage door goes up and down on
Mhm.
that track, well, we can actually hook a simulator screen up to that same track where you push a button and it goes up and down. So when you're not playing it, it's as easy as pushing a button and your simulator folds up and it's
Nice. Out of the
away.
way. So you can still park in your garage, but you
Yep.
can
Fully
golf
use
in your
that
garage.
space. Yep. So there's very few people that don't. Well, that's the biggest barrier, right? They say, I don't have the space. And
Yeah.
usually we can find a way to make it work very effectively for them.
Nice. That seems like a perfect situation because a lot of existing homes don't have a spare bedroom or the
Exactly.
right clearance from the basement.
Yeah.
And, you're not going to take out concrete in the basement to, pour it so it's deeper or whatever. And
Yeah.
so having that option to just go right into the garage,
Yeah.
that is genius.
That's a good one. We're doing a really fun one right now. It's for Make-A-Wish up in North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a child up there. His wish was to have a golf simulator. So enter Austads. We're happy to
Yeah.
participate and help with that. But what we're doing is his family didn't have space. I don't think they had a garage either. And so we partnered with a company that's building kind of what do they call it? For women, they call it the she shed. I can't remember what they call it
Oh,
for men
yeah.
or for boys. But so they're
The
building,
man cave-ish
yeah,
thing.
kind of like
Uh-huh.
that. But it's 13 feet wide. I think it's like 20 feet deep.
Uh-huh.
And it's basically just a golf heaven, a golf simulator
Oh,
room.
awesome.
So that one gets installed this spring. But that was a really cool project we're excited to be a part of.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That little boy is gonna be in that building.
I hope he's on tour someday. That's a fun one.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so what goals do you have for this year?
We're very bullish. I don't know if you're familiar with TGL. So this is
Mm.
the new Tiger Woods Rory McIlroy Golf League, and it's played on a golf simulator every single week. And so this whole
Uh,
idea of virtual golf is becoming very mainstream, and it's feeding the demand
mhm.
for these things. And so, our goal was we doubled the business last year, and our goal is to double it again this year. And we just see an immense need um, because people are demanding these products. And what we're really seeing and where we can fill the void is we get a lot of people that call and say, hey, I bought this and I'm incredibly frustrated because it doesn't fit in the space, or I have the wrong gaming computer, or the aspect ratio on the projector I bought is wrong. And they just bought it on a cheap website online.
Mhm.
And that's where we can fill the need because our prices are as lower than anybody else. Certainly our installation prices are, but you get the consulting piece for no cost.
Mhm.
So when you're buying, if whether it's 6,000 or it's $30,000 in your simulator, you want to make the right choice,
Right,
right?
for
It's not
sure.
a small investment, even if it's on that more value oriented end.
Mhm.
And so that's where we're trying to get the word out because we hate hearing those stories like, hey, I just spent 20 grand and nothing works and it doesn't even fit in the space I wanted.
Yeah. Painful to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of it, it's tricky too. If you get online, you'll see, hey, this cage is 9 foot high, 12 feet wide. That's actually, that's how high the screen is. So if your ceiling is 9 foot high, the finished dimensions of that cage are typically 9 feet, 2 or 3 inches. It's not going to
Sure.
fit.
So you have to have the outer edge of.
Yep. Yep. So we have all those dimensions and we will obviously make sure it's going to fit in whatever space you want it in. But that's the biggest complaint we hear when somebody just buys it from some national online
XYZ.
retailer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What's the biggest misunderstanding about golf?
About the sport of golf.
Yes.
I think it's the perception that it is snooty and meant only for the few and sort of still that, you talked about in the 60s how it was perceived as this rich man's game.
Uh-huh.
I think a lot of people still have that perception and I understand it. If you watch the PGA Tour and half the rules, I've been playing golf my entire life and I don't understand some of the rules and it can feel at times snobbish.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at what's happened in the last 10 years in the game, I think that is rapidly evolving and changing. And some of that started with Tiger in the early 2000s. But if you look at the fashion now, so everything actually I'm wearing now, not that I am a beacon of fashion, but this is our biggest brand that is Travis Matthew shirt, Travis Matthew pants. This probably does not look to your viewers like traditional golf apparel.
Right.
Same with these are golf shoes, spikeless golf shoes. You have
Pretty
guys
sporty.
Sporty, yeah.
Yeah.
You have guys wearing hoodies on the course now. Live Golf, they play music during the whole round, and they're wearing shorts. And so I think the game is much more inclusive now than it
Mhm.
used to be, and there's some cool brands out there that, in fact, the fastest growing brands are folks that started podcasts like yours. So like we just picked up Good Apparel.
Hmm.
Good is a group of young friends that would just videotape themselves or film themselves playing golf and talking. And then they grew this massive following, and now they have an apparel line that is taking off. And so I think that would be the biggest misconception about this sport for those who aren't following it real close is that it's still kind of stuffy,
Mm-hmm.
and it feels anything but stuffy to me now. It's a pretty wide tent, and I think that's why the game has grown as much as it has certainly since COVID, but really the last 10 years.
Yeah. Cool. I think I would agree. It's been fun to see. I'm not super into golf, but it's been fun to see sort of that transition where even locally there's golf courses that have for beginners like me where it's okay if
Yeah.
you don't hit the ball. It's okay, and it's just the companionship of going out and doing the sport and being outside and
Yeah.
enjoying it.
And there's so many fun products now. Another one that I've enjoyed is called the Sun Mountain Fin Scooter. So, when you go play golf, like my kids, the favorite thing, they love to play golf, but it's mostly because they like to drive the golf cart. Well,
Of course.
we sell a lot of Sun Mountain golf bags, and they developed this product called the Fin Scooter, which is essentially a little golf motorcycle where your bag sits on top of it, and then
Uh-huh.
you get on the Fin Scooter and you ride it.
Nice.
And so we have one of these, and that now that they ride it around the neighborhood, they take it when we play golf. But like again, I imagine my grandpa back in the early '60s. I mean, like, hey, grandpa, someday when I'm running the company, people are going to be riding around golf courses on motorcycles and having a blast doing it. And he'd probably smile and say, "Yeah, Ryan, you're on something." But it's just that's how much has changed in the last 60 years.
Yeah. Cool. So what is the best thing that you do?
The best thing that I do, or the best thing that Osted's does. I mean,
Well, maybe both.
I think the best thing that Osted's does is we are laser focused on what we think matters the most, which is our customers.
Mhm.
And so we are very keenly aware. We probably send out more surveys than any of our customers care to respond to. But we're always interested in what they're thinking and what's important to them because we want to stay ahead of that curve so we can react and help them with those needs. So in our 62 years, we joke we're on Osted's 10.0. We've been 10 different companies. We've been a a cataloger. We've been a big box retailer. We were the first golf company to ever partner with Amazon in the early 2000s.
Wow, that's really cool.
So we were big in the e-com space, and we're still in the e-com space. But Amazon, they're no dummies. What they'll do is they'll partner with companies, they'll see what's selling, and then they'll say, I think we can cut them out now, and we can go direct and make our margin. So you learn your lessons there. And so we've been 10 different companies over that time, and in the next 60 years, we'll be another 10 companies. You're not going to last as long as we have if you don't
have to evolve with
change.
the market.
You do. And so I think what Austad does really well is we keep the customer at the center of everything we do. We never think we've got it figured out. If we ever think we've cracked the code, we've got it, this is how our business works, we probably won't be relevant 3 years after that.
Sure.
So that's the best thing I think Austad's does. The best thing I do, I used to consult with Gallup. I don't know if you're familiar with Gallup, but they do a strengths finder assessment. And my number one strength is futuristic, which I know drives my staff nuts because typically my brain is like, where are we 5 years from now or 10 years from now? And they're like, yeah, Ryan, we got to open the store today and we got to figure out how to, help customers today. So I think maybe the best thing that I do is I push us to think a lot differently about where we're going and how we can modify our customer experience to be relevant and helpful, which ultimately will lead to success. And so like the volumental shoe foot scanning deal is an example, or the putt view.
So awesome.
Yeah. So those things give me a ton of energy. And I think my staff would tell you, Ryan's generally, his brain is 5 years in the future, which drives us nuts. But I think every company also needs at least somebody, if not multiple somebodies, that's doing that.
Yeah, so you're always looking for that next opportunity to bring something bigger and better to customers.
Yep. That's what's incredibly exciting to me. It would get, I don't want to say boring and monotonous, but if I envisioned in 10 years we look exactly like we do today, I think that repetition would wear me down and I'd go, okay, yep, I've seen this movie before. What excites me is knowing that we're going to evolve and be different and serve our customers differently to meet their changing needs 10 years from now. And I got to figure out what that is. We have to figure out what that is.
Well, right. And in 10 years, there's going to be a different market. You think of my son is 20 and for him, he'll be 30. And in that 10 years, there's a lot of change that's definitely going to take place.
Absolutely. Yeah. Baby boomers are getting older and they're a big part of the golf market today, but you're right. In 10, 20 years, they won't be. So how are we connecting with those younger consumers? It's definitely a challenge.
The fun clothing.
But even like connecting with them on things like this is important. My dad jokes, he goes, it used to be so easy, 20 years ago, every year you do your advertising strategy and you look at the local newspaper, the local news channel, you'd buy some TV during the golf tournaments, and you do some direct mail and maybe some local radio, and that was it. Now it is so segmented out. You have to have a really good strategy to be able to touch all the different demographics, or you're going to miss.
Right, and being in several states, that's all. I'm assuming another challenge to meet each of those different areas that you have locations at.
Yeah, for sure. It's not easy, and every year we modify and we haven't cracked the code perfectly. Nobody has, but we're going to keep working on it. And that's what gives us energy. Yeah. We'll let you know when we figure it out.
Yeah. All right. Anything else we need to chat about on the simulators?
I think we've covered the lion's share of it. No, I don't think so.
Okay. Piece of advice for the community.
Piece of advice for the community. That's a good question. I heard this quote recently and I've been sharing it with our staff, and it is that momentum creates inevitability. Momentum creates inevitability. So we talk about getting a little better every day, 1% better every day, and you stack these small wins. And I think that's true for both small communities and the larger community, the country, for example. Sometimes you look at problems or opportunities and you're like, this is insurmountable. How do we get from point A to point B? And that's not always the point. You got to go from point A and start creating momentum strategically in small ways and stack your wins and eventually get to point B. So I guess the advice would be, if you're not cognizantly creating momentum in some way every day, whether it's big or small, you're missing out. So momentum creates inevitability. strategically create momentum every single day.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. So how can people find you?
Austads.com is the easiest spot to find us. We have stores all over the upper Midwest, so you'll also, be able to Google and find all your store
Find your
locations.
closest location.
Find your closest location. You can actually book on our website not only a fitting appointment if you want golf clubs, but you can book a simulator consultation. So if you're a builder or you're building a house or you're remodeling a house or you just want a golf simulator, you can book a consultation with one of our experts, and it's no cost. You get on the phone for 15 to 20 minutes, and we'll learn a little bit about your project, and then we can help you start to narrow down what makes sense for your space needs and budget. And that's right off of Austads.com.
Perfect. Yeah, the pre-planning, I think, is critical, because if you're building, you need to get all of those specs and everything put together.
Yeah, and we usually say, unlike, if you want golf balls or golf clubs, you might book an appointment, come in. At most, you're maybe coming in twice to look at some different clubs. You're doing research online, but it's usually 1 or 2 touch points, and we can find the right thing for you. With simulators, we say it's probably an average of 7 or 8 touch points, and we're really happy. We want those 7 or 8 touch points. So it'll start with the consultation call, and then we might say, hey, make sure you measure this, and then email me this or text me this, and there'll be a back and forth dialogue. So it's usually 7, 8 touch points before we'll send you, hey, here's kind of what we would prescribe based on everything you've told us. You tell me yes or no, and then we're off and running and we can get everything ordered. So yeah, there is a lot of planning that goes into it. So the earlier we can be involved in that, I think the more confident the customer will be that they're going to get the right thing at the right budget.
Sure. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I appreciate you having me. This was fun.
Yeah, this was great. I learned a whole bunch.
Yeah.
I think I need a golf simulator.
We could book your consultation. We're happy to help.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Thank you for tuning into a Well-Designed Home podcast. We hope today's episode inspired you to take the next steps towards creating the home of your dreams. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. New episodes are uploaded every Friday afternoon for your listening delight. We'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review to help more listeners discover the show. And while you're at it, sign up for our newsletter at timelessdesignsbymelissa.com to have every episode and other design-related items delivered directly to your inbox. Looking for more resources? Download our complimentary guide, How to Hire the Right Interior Designer, on our website to ensure your next project is a success. Stay connected with us on social media. Follow Timeless Designs by Melissa on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube for behind-the-scenes content, design tips, and so much more. If you're ready to start your own design journey or have questions, reach out to us at concierge@timelessdesignsbymelissa.com. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again for joining us on a Well-Designed Home podcast. Until next time, here's to making every space a timeless reflection of you.